Let's take a look at this graphic, shall we? Women's national team training camp roster taking place in Durham, North Carolina, December 12th to the 14th. We got Bats, Boston, Brittany Griner, Hamby, Kiki Iriafin, Paige, Caitlin Clark, Rakia Jackson, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Juju Watkins, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray. And if you look at the poster where you put your best marketing tools on.
Go ahead. Take a good long look at that promotional poster. Seriously, I want you to really study it. USA Basketball has just dropped the announcement for their women's national team training camp roster, which is set for December 12th through the 14th down in Durham, North Carolina. Now let's be crystal clear. This roster is absolutely, unbelievably stacked. It's packed with names you definitely know, like the phenom Caitlin Clark, the incredible Paige Buckers, and the powerhouse Angel Reese, all sharing the court with a mix of incredibly talented, established veterans. On paper, from a marketing perspective, this should be an absolute grand slam, the easiest slam dunk in sports promotion history. But instead, what do they give up? They put Kalea Copper front and center, a player whose most talked about, most memorable moment this entire past season was when her wig literally fell off in the middle of a game and was just left sitting there on the court. Right next to her we have Alyssa Thomas, who made headlines not for her play, but when she had a fan escorted out by arena security simply for laughing at her. And then there's Jackie Young, who despite being a truly phenomenal player, is virtually unknown to the average casual sports fan. All the while, where is the biggest name in the sport, Caitlin Clark? Her name is completely buried. 6 names down on a purely alphabetical list. There's no photo, no visual presence, absolutely nothing. The one single player who could single-handedly drive massive, unprecedented interest in this event is rendered completely invisible on the promotional graphic. It's not just a mistake, it's genuinely baffling.
Off the court, and then Alyssa Thomas has that fan laughing at her, escorted out by security. We have Jackie Young, no shade to Jackie Young, but folks, I can walk up to 150,000 people in the streets of New York City and ask them if you know who this woman is. No disrespect, Jackie Young. All 150,000 of those people would say, yeah, I got no idea. I don't even know who any of these people are. That person looks familiar, but I really don't know her name.
So what's going on with USA Basketball? Well, Christine Brennan, the legendary veteran sports writer, who quite literally wrote the definitive book on Caitlin Clark, called this out almost immediately. And let me tell you, when Christine Brennan speaks on this specific topic, you stop and you listen. This is a journalist who has been covering the Olympics and the national governing bodies of U.S. sports for over 40 years. Her assessment of this poster was both absolutely brutal and 100% spot-on accurate. She pointed out that if USA Basketball was genuinely serious about promoting women's basketball, if they were truly committed to bringing new fans into the fold and generating unprecedented attention for a team that saw its ET viewership actually drop at the Paris Olympics, they would have made one incredibly simple change. They would have added the photo of one other player to this graphic. And let's be completely honest with ourselves. We all know exactly who that player is. And here's the real kicker. So does USA Basketball. That fact is what transforms this decision from a simple mistake into a truly baffling and what almost feels like a deliberately self-sabotaging choice.
That's the only person that would say, yeah, she doesn't deserve to be on this roster, just out of pure old guard, jealousy, spite, hate narrative. It's clear as day that the people that made the decisions to put out this poster is somebody that is still pushing back against the Caitlin Clark is the reason why we're all here.
Now, to really understand why this is so incredibly frustrating, we absolutely have to talk about what happened at the 2024 Paris Olympics, because that context is absolutely crucial here. USA Basketball made the conscious, deliberate, and widely criticized decision to leave Caitlin Clark off the Olympic roster entirely. And they left Angel Reese off too. Let's break this down. From a pure, raw skill standpoint, Caitlin Clark absolutely deserved to be on that team. No question. But even more importantly, from a popularity and growth of the game standpoint, both Clark and Reese needed to be there. The numbers simply do not lie, and they tell an undeniable story. Women's basketball viewership absolutely exploded during the 2024 college season, and it was specifically because of the incredible star power and the compelling storylines surrounding these particular players. But what did USA Basketball do in the face of this opportunity? They went with the old guard. They chose the established names, the players who had supposedly earned their spot through years of being in the system. And what was the direct result of that out-of-touch decision? TV viewership for women's basketball at the Paris Olympics didn't just stagnate, it dropped. It actually went down. In the one single moment they had to capitalize on the massive, unprecedented momentum generated from the college season, they completely and utterly fumbled the ball.
And Team USA has went the correct route, in my opinion. They embraced the young guns. They embraced the younger generation, the generation that more casuals know. Names that are more familiar, not Alyssa Thomas. Who's Alyssa Thomas? No, we left her off. Now we have Caitlin Clark on the roster. Now we have Paige on the roster, Angel on the roster, Cam Brink on the roster, Aaliyah Boston on the roster. Names that we all know.
Well, here's where the story gets so interesting, because for the upcoming 2026 FIBA World Cup roster, it seems like USA Basketball completely flipped the script and changed their entire approach. It was a total 180-degree turn. They finally, at long last, embraced the young guns. They made the decision to bring in the next generation of superstars. And suddenly, just like that, Caitlin Clark is on the roster. Paige Barkers is on the roster. Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, Aaliyah Boston, all the names that casual fans actually recognize, follow on social media, and genuinely care about are now there. The error from the 2024 Olympics was so obvious and so egregious that they actually replaced the person responsible for making those roster decisions and brought in the highly respected Cheryl Reeve to start calling the shots. So looking at all of that, you'd naturally think the organization clearly learned something significant from the Olympic disaster. It truly looked like they recognized the desperate need to change course and finally understood that growing the game requires featuring the players who actually move the needle with audiences. But then they released this poster.
All out promoting women's basketball, bring new fans in, and get unprecedented attention for a team that dropped in TV viewership at the Paris Olympics. They would have added the photo of one other player to this graphic. But no. And we all know who that one other player is. I've covered the Olympics and U.S. sports national governing bodies for 40 plus years and plan to be covering them for many more. And NGB's mission is to win medals, but also grow.
And that's where the profound confusion really sets in. Because on one hand, USA Basketball demonstrated that they learned their lesson by building a World Cup roster that beautifully balances veteran leadership with the undeniable magnetic star power of the new generation. The roster itself is fantastic. It's exactly what it should be, and it's a huge step in the right direction. But the marketing, the promotional strategy that is supposed to sell this incredible roster to the public, it's as if they learned absolutely nothing at all. Just for a moment, try to think about this from the perspective of an average sports fan scrolling through their social media feed. They see this poster. If they aren't already a hardcore WNBA fan, they might see Kelsey Plum, and maybe, just maybe, they recognize her face. But it's far more likely they don't even know her name, and they just keep on scrolling without a second thought. There is absolutely nothing on this graphic that makes them stop in their tracks. Nothing that creates any sense of intrigue. Nothing that screams, hey, this event matters, and you should pay attention to it. Now just imagine for a second if Caitlin Clark's face was on that poster. Immediately, millions of casual fans stop scrolling. The reaction is instantaneous and powerful. Oh, Caitlin's playing. When is that? Where can I watch? That is the reaction you want. That is how you grow an audience. This isn't rocket science. It's marketing.
People would be intrigued. People would say, oh, Caitlin Clark's back? Let me take a look. You don't even know Caitlin Clark's back playing basketball by looking at this graphic. You would need to squint your eyes real hard and see her sixth way down the list. And I get it. It's in alphabetical order. Even more of a purpose to put Caitlin Clark front and center on this graphic. But we got Ka Copper And I understand some people might say, oh, well, they're using people that have already been on the team. Photoshop's a hell of a drug. Going back in time is...
Now let's go ahead and address the most obvious counter-argument you're likely to hear from defenders of this poster. Well, maybe they only used players who already have official Team USA photos in the correct uniform. Okay, on the surface, that sounds like a somewhat reasonable assumption. But here's the thing. Photoshop exists. Graphic design exists. These are multi-million-dollar professional organizations with dedicated marketing budgets. It's not a high school project. More importantly, and this is a key fact, Caitlin Clark has played for USA Basketball before, earlier in her career with the FIBA youth teams. So those photos absolutely positively exist somewhere in an archive. And even if, by some miracle, they didn't, you can easily create compelling promotional graphics that don't require actual game photos. Nike does it constantly with their athletes. The NBA does it constantly. This isn't some insurmountable technical limitation we are talking about here. This was a deliberate, conscious choice. And if we're all being brutally honest with ourselves, it was probably easier to just Photoshop Caitlin into a Team USA uniform than it was to make whatever bizarre series of decisions led to featuring Kahleah Copper so prominently. And look, this is said with no disrespect to Copper as a player, but from a pure, cold, objective marketing perspective, she simply does not move the needle with casual fans. That is just the undeniable, hard reality of the situation.
You can Photoshop Caitlin Clark in one of these new nice threads, or you can go back to her days when she was playing with the FIBA team earlier in her basketball career. But to continue to drop the ball is absolutely ridiculous. You ever watch those cartoons? You have like a waiter just carrying all these pots and pans at one time, and then out of nowhere they just slip, and then all the pots and pans fall all over the floor. They got to go back, they got to remake the food. This is kind of like what Team USA is doing with this basketball team in advertising and marketing and promoting. They have all this cash on a...
So what does a decision like this truly reveal about the people who are in charge? It tells us, loud and clear, that someone, somewhere in USA Basketball's marketing department, is still actively pushing back against the clear and obvious narrative that Caitlin Clark is a primary reason for the recent lowsment in women's basketball's popularity. They are part of that strange, resentful group that seems to despise her success. The group that wants to credit the entire league or all the players, rather than acknowledging the simple, data-proven fact that individual star power matters immensely in professional sports. And this isn't just wild speculation on my part. The evidence is printed right there on the poster for everyone in the world to see. When you have a roster that includes the single biggest name in your entire sport, and you consciously choose not to feature her in your primary promotional materials, that's not an oversight. That's an ideology, overriding common sense. That is someone making a statement saying, we are not going to give her special treatment, even when that so-called special treatment is exactly what smart, effective marketing requires to grow the game for everyone. And think about the other players on that post. Who among them would actually have a problem with Caitlin Clark being featured prominently? Most of them are seasoned professionals who understand exactly how star power works. They know that Caitlin's visibility helps everyone in the long run. The only player who might genuinely object is someone like Kahleah Copper, and that would be an objection born purely out of old guard jealousy and resentment.
These people are fools, man. There's no other way to really describe it. These people are just fools. Should have had CC, Paige, and Angel in the graphic. I swear women's basketball doesn't know how to promote their product. Why should that change? WNBA has dropped the ball. Indiana Fever have dropped the ball. Nike has dropped the ball. Damn near the only ones that haven't been Wilson and the women's professional LPGA, not WPGA. Don't worry, WNBA media coaches, these players will get a front row seat when they see the foreign teams' fans seek their autograph picture like they're at a Michael Jackson concert.
But let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger pattern here, because this isn't just an isolated incident. This is part of a consistent, deeply frustrating failure across multiple organizations to properly market women's basketball's biggest star. USA Basketball dropped the ball with the Olympic roster, and now, yet again, with this poster. The WNBA itself has repeatedly failed to capitalize on Clark's immense popularity. The Indiana Fever's own marketing has been inconsistent at best. It took Nike months upon months to release her signature shoe, and even then, they completely fumbled the rollout. The only organizations that seem to truly understand the world-class asset they have are Wilson, which immediately partnered with her for a signature line of basketballs, and incredibly, the LPGA, which brought her in for promotional events and treated her like the global superstar she actually is. Everyone else seems to be either actively working against their own self-interest, or they're so paralyzed by internal politics and old guard resentment that they can't execute the most basic marketing strategies. Christine Brennan's observation really cuts to the heart of the issue. USA Basketball's mission is twofold: to win medals but also to grow the sport. They utterly failed to grow women's basketball and now, given a golden second chance, they're making the exact same kind of unforced errors. It's a different context, but it's the same fundamental failure to understand the moment. Think about what's going to happen when this team travels internationally. When they arrive in whatever country is hosting an event, the fans there are going to go absolutely crazy for Caitlin Clark. They are going to treat her like she's at a Michael Jackson concert in his prime. They're going to swarm her for autographs and photos. The international basketball community understands star power. They get that individual players are what drive interest. And the WNBA media, the coaches, the old guard players who have been so resistant to acknowledging Clark's true impact, they are going to have front row seats to watch foreign fans demonstrate the very reality they've been trying so desperately to deny. It's going to be undeniable. The contrast between how international audiences treat her versus how the American basketball establishment has treated her is going to be stark and deeply uncomfortable for them. That's when reality is going to hit. That's when you can no longer hide behind flimsy narratives about team success or how everyone contributes equally. When thousands of fans are chanting one player's name, when the media coverage in that country focuses primarily on one player, when ticket sales and TV ratings spike specifically because of that one player, you can no longer pretend that transcendent star power doesn't exist. So what should USA Basketball have done with this poster? It's not complicated at all. You feature Caitlin Clark prominently. You include Paige Bueckers, you put Angel Reese on there. And yes, you absolutely include Juju Watkins from the current roster because she represents the next incredible wave of stars. Those four faces together would capture the attention of casual fans, hardcore fans, and everyone in between. You can still include veterans like Kelsey Plum or Chelsea Gray in smaller roles on the graphic. You're not disrespecting anyone by acknowledging the simple reality that some players have more marketing power than others. That is just how professional sports work. That's how you grow a massive audience. The NBA doesn't hide LeBron James in alphabetical lists. The NFL doesn't bury Patrick Mahomes deep in their promotional materials. You lead with your star. But instead, we get Kalea Copper and Jackie Young featured prominently while the biggest draw in the sport, Caitlin Clark, is buried in the text. It's completely backwards, it's counterproductive, and it's a frustrating continuation of the same self-defeating pattern we've seen all year. And here's what makes this particularly infuriating for the fans who genuinely want to see women's basketball succeed. The sport is right there, right on the very edge of a major mainstream breakthrough. The audience is primed and ready. The interest is real. The momentum from the 2024 college season proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that millions of people will tune in to watch women's basketball when you give them compelling stars and interesting storylines. But growth requires so much more than just having talented players on the court. It requires smart, aggressive marketing. It requires understanding your audience. It requires putting aside personal feelings and petty organizational politics to do what actually works. And time again, the people in charge of making these crucial decisions have proven they either don't understand this basic principle or they're simply unwilling to do it. The real tragedy here is that the players themselves, including many of the veterans, would probably be perfectly fine with featuring the young stars more prominently. As professional athletes, they get it. They understand how the business works. They know that a rising tide lifts all boats. They know that if Caitlin Clark's star power brings more attention and more money into women's basketball, everyone benefits through better TV deals, higher salaries, more sponsorship opportunities, and greater respect for their sport. The resistance isn't coming from the players on the court, it's coming from the administrators, the marketing departments, and the media members who are stubbornly invested in a particular, outdated narrative about how success should be distributed and recognized. Now let's talk about what this means for the actual December training camp. Despite the terrible poster, this event really does matter. It's the first official gathering of this new-look Team USA roster. It's our first chance to see how Caitlin Clark, Paige Bueckers, and Angel Reese all mesh with the veteran core. It's where the coaching staff, led by Cheryl Reeve, will start figuring out rotations and defining roles for the 20. From a pure basketball perspective, this is absolutely fascinating. How does Cheryl Reeve integrate these young funums? Does Caitlin get significant playing time right away, or is this more about her learning the system? How do the veterans respond to this new dynamic on the court? These are legitimate, compelling storylines that should be driving huge interest in this event. But because USA Basketball failed so miserably to market it properly, most casual fans won't even know that it's happening. They won't know when it is, where it is, or how to follow along. The organization had a golden opportunity to build anticipation, create buzz, and draw new eyeballs to women's basketball during December, which is typically a slow time for the sport since the WNBA season is over and college basketball is just getting started. Instead, they released a poster that looks like it was designed by someone who actively does not want people to pay attention. This all raises a broader, more troubling question. If USA Basketball can't even figure out how to properly market Caitlin Clark on a simple poster, what does that say about the sport's ability to sustain its current momentum? Growth isn't automatic. It requires consistent, smart, forward-thinking decisions by the people running these organizations. It requires truly understanding your audience and giving them what they are clearly asking for. The 2024 college season proved that there is an enormous appetite for women's basketball when it's marketed correctly. Iowa's games featuring Caitlin Clark drew absolutely massive ratings. The championship game between Iowa and South Carolina became the most watched women's college basketball game in history. And those weren't just the hardcore fans tuning in, those were casual sports fans who came specifically to watch a generational talent. But translating that incredible college success into sustained WNBA and international basketball growth requires the professional organizations to do their part. They need to feature their stars. They need to create compelling storyline. They need to make it easy for new fans to find and follow the sport. And right now, they're simply not doing it. Or at least, they're not doing it consistently enough. Just think about the sheer volume of missed opportunities we've already seen. The Olympic roster decision was the first major fumble. The WNBA's own scheduling decisions frequently put several of Clark's biggest games on obscure streaming services. The league's social media strategy has been wildly inconsistent. And now we have this poster. Each individual decision might seem minor on its own, but cumulatively, they represent a clear pattern of organizations failing to capitalize on the single biggest opportunity women's basketball has ever had. It's like watching someone repeatedly fumble a priceless gift. The audience is there, the interest is real, the star power is undeniable. But the infrastructure and the decision-making just aren't matching the moment. Other sports have faced similar inflection points and have succeeded by making smart choices. The NBA's global explosion in the 1980s happened because David Stern brilliantly marketed the rivalry between Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Individual stars drive league growth. That is not a controversial statement, that is just how the business of sports works. So where does all of this leave us? Well, USA Basketball has the roster right for the World Cup, even if their marketing is completely wrong, and that's actually encouraging. It means the people making the basketball decisions understand what needs to happen. The disconnect lies within the marketing department, which is a problem that is fixable, but only if the organization actually wants to fix it. The real test will be how they promote the World Cup when it finally arrives. Will they learn from this poster mistake, or will we see another baffling decision to hide their stars? And beyond USA Basketball, this question extends to every single organization involved in women's basketball. The WNBA, individual teams, sponsors, media partners, everyone needs to get aligned on the basic, fundamental principle that you market your stars prominently, because that is how you grow the sport for everyone. The good news in all of this is that the talent is there. Caitlin Clark is a legitimate, transcendent superstar. Paige Bueckers is right behind her. Angel Reese brings a unique style and a powerful personality. The next generation with incredible players like Juju Watkins is already emerging. The on-court product is compelling. The players are ready. The only remaining question is whether the people running these organizations can finally get out of their own way and make the obvious decisions that will help the sport reach its incredible potential. Based on this poster, that question remains very much open. And here's what I keep coming back to. This is not complicated. You do not need an MBA or a fancy marketing degree to understand that you feature your most popular, most recognizable player prominently in your promotional materials. It's really that simple.